प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासुदेव गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री आदिदीप मायापुर श्री मधुदीप कुटुम्बदीप मधुदीप कौलदीप पतिदीप चारुदीप मधुदीप प्रभु पापक श्री नवदीप धाम की जय। श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपी गोवर्धन वल्लभ सुभद्रा श्री ब्रज मंडल की जय। श्री श्याम कुंज राधा कुंज यमुना गंगा तुलसी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री योग माया पूर्णमासी की जय। कपिश्वर महादेव की जय। जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा सुदर्शन चक्र की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र की जय। सिंह भगवान की जय। भक्त प्रकाश श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। रामगत भक्त वृंद की जय। Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hare Hare.
Oh, Jai Govinda Prabhu? Can I just use your hotspot for a second? I just wanted to load this onto my...
It should be on.
Yeah, because I think I've used it before.
Yeah.
I need the password.
Yeah, it's 8 zeros.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to say
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
It'll only take a second.
No problem. I don't need it.
Okay. So, yesterday was Ram Navami. But there's also a great Vaishnava personality who appeared, who is very contemporary and very important to us, because he has so many relationships with all of our Guru Varga. And who is that? Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Asto Uttarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Ballabha Tirtha Goswami Maharaj. So I'm going to read Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj's Katha about him. I think it's from the book Our Holy Masters. No, it's a different article. Because I think that if I didn't do that, like Srila Bharati Maharaj keeps on reminding us, then I would be committing an offense. Yesterday I would have done, but it's Ram Navami. And every year this is a problem because he's born on Ram Navami Day. So I think every year, as long as I'm in this body, I want to, I want to glorify him at least on the next day. And today I know that the devotees made a little more special prasadam, right, Jago? Because of him, it was for his offering. Very beautiful, beautiful feast. So, yes, so that's what I want to do today. If the devotees would like to hear about this personality, I'll tell a little bit about my own association with him as well. It wasn't that extensive, but actually I met him in about 5 locations around the world as he was touring. Russia, Singapore, San Francisco, when he was in America. Of course, in Vrindavan, and also in Mayapur. There's one other I'm forgetting. No, I didn't meet him when he came here, but you did, huh? Did you?
My wife did.
Was that when he came to Srila?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, but Paramatma's also said
No, we went to Paramahansa.
Yeah.
that he stayed 4 days at Paramatma's house. Yeah. Oh, I forgot the other one, London. That's where I spent 3 whole days with him. Stayed where he was, and so it was very, very sweet. So I have a special affection for him, and really I can say that if I had not been with Srila Gurudev by that time, I would have been swept up by him, because he was now traveling to the West and all. And in fact, the devotees who were with him, they liked that I had come, and he also liked it. I even accompanied him to the airport in London when he flew back to India. You know, and then I felt like an honorary member of his entourage. So, but yeah, he was very, very incredible personality. And when I use the word incredible, I also like to apply that to his kirtan. His kirtan was extraordinary, very, very powerful. Did you ever were in his kirtan?
I was never in his kirtan, but I heard recordings.
Yeah, so then you know. Yeah, but I've been in his kirtan quite a few times. Wow. There are videos of it also, you can see. Okay, so Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Trishe Nama Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalo Kalmashanashaya Janava Pataye Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my Koti Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. And then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Asto Tarazata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. My Dandavat pranams at the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Asto Tarazata Sri Srila Bhakti Balabha Tirtha Goswami Maharaj. And my Dandavat pranams to all of my Sri Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga. My Dandavat pranams to all of the Vaishnavas and all of the Vaishnavis. So Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Maharaj is giving this lecture on the appearance day, same Titi. Today is the appearance day of Sri Ramchandra, as well as that of my god brother and the present Acharya of Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Mat, Pujapad Bhakti Balabha Tirtha Maharaj. It is extremely important for sincere sadhaks to observe the tithis of Bhagavan and Vaishnavas, for it is an opportunity to glorify and remember their lotus feet. To neglect glorifying them on such days is certainly an offense. Many times he says this in the beginning of his lectures on these appearance days. Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur has written in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat Antyakanda, Jai Vaishnava Bhajile Achintya Krishna Pai. Se Vaishnava Puja Hoite Baro Ar Nai. By serving the lotus feet of Vaishnavas, one attains the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, who is Achintya, inconceivable. There is no greater sadhana than this. Look at that. Se Vaishnava Puja Hoite Baro Ar Nai. That means there is no greater puja, sadhana, than to serve the lotus feet of the Mahabhagavad Vaishnava. It is impossible to approach the Transcendental Lord through the means of the material senses. In the conditioned stage, in which the jiva is bound by many material desires, he cannot think about Achintya Krishna within his mind. Nor can he see him with his eyes. Are we seeing him? Are we seeing the inconceivable Supreme Personality of Godhead with our eyes? No. Are we seeing him within our mind? No. So, yes. So, he becomes qualified. Who? He? The jiva in the conditioned stage. Because he cannot see. If he's bound by material desires, he cannot think even about Achintya Krishna within his mind. Nor can he see him with his eyes. But he becomes qualified to attain the inconceivable Lord's mercy only after he takes complete shelter at the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. Remember that sentence. What did he say? He becomes qualified to attain the inconceivable Lord's mercy only after what?
Taking complete shelter at the lotus feet of the Vaishnava.
Yes. No other way. Now, remembering this instruction, I will today serve Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj by remembering and glorifying him. Yeah, this was spoken while he was still on the planet in 2014.
So when I was,
Mm-hmm.
one day I went to the Mat at with Bhakti Maharaj shortly before I think he left.
In Calcutta?
I don't even know.
That's where he was staying when he was in that internal state.
Well, maybe when he was in Vrindavan, when not.
Okay.
And I walked into his room, not knowing, and somebody said he's a follower of Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj. And just like a child, he looked up and he said, "Oh, he loved me so much."
Yes. So here we begin. The first section is called His Firm Faith in the Words of His Guru Varga. Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj appeared in Gwalpada, Assam. Yeah, just like our Bhaktivedanta Madhav Maharaj, he also appeared in Assam. Quite a few Gaudiya Vaishnavas in the Gaudiya Math came from Assam.
My Gurudev?
Yeah.
He's from Gobru.
From where?
Gobru. Small village in West Bengal.
Where is that?
I don't know how to explain, but I can.
Oh, but he's from, then I know he's from Assamese descent.
Oh, okay.
I think he has some family there in Assam also. And Srila Vaman Maharaj also stayed a lot in Assam. But Assamese people, that's going a little bit north, you know, in India. And just like Manipur is very much in the northeastern corner of the Indian subcontinent, right? But as you go a little bit north, and then their eyes become a little bit oriental.
Yeah.
So Srila Madhav Maharaj, he also has a little bit, and so did Tirtha Maharaj. And like when you come up to like Astrahan, where is that? No, when you come across the Himalayan mountains and you come into Russia, then as you go eastward and toward the southern part, many, many oriental features now come in the people's faces. Yeah, and one time I was on a train and an Assamese family, we were coming from, I think, Navadvip to Calcutta, and I was going to catch a flight. And I had so many of my luggages, I was going to go back to America. And that family were Vaishnavas, and they were kind of guarding my things. I went off the train to pass water, because this train it was just a local train, didn't even have a bathroom. But all of a sudden the train took off, and it was gone, right? With all of my luggages. And so what I did was I went to the train master, and I said, "My luggage is the train left. Oh, I will call." And he started calling to the next station. And that didn't work. Then he started calling to another station. Then he said, "You should get on this train. And then because that is ending up in Calcutta." And I'm like chasing it down with the train and thinking, what will go on? What will happen? So finally, because the whole trip took at least about, 3 hours or so, I got to the Calcutta station and I went to the station master there. And the whole Assamese family was sitting there with my luggages. Wow. They were waiting for me, you know. Wow. I always remember that. So Assamese Vaishnavas are very, very, strong, faithful Vaishnavas.
That sounds like a stressful situation.
Yeah. Huh?
Sweet ending.
Yes. And I tried to give them a donation. Please take, you saved. No. We are serving Vaishnava.
So sweet.
Yeah. So, Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj appeared in Gwalpada, Assam. He was the first member of his family to accept and to follow the tenets of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He used to hear Hari Katha very attentively and with great interest. He only performed kirtan of Shrota Vani, that is, only what he had heard from our Param Radhyatama Guru Maharaj, Sri Srimad Bhakti Doyata Madhav Goswami Maharaj, as well as senior authorities. He would only do that kirtan. In his Harikatha and his general talks also, he would only repeat what he had heard from our Guru Maharaj and Guru Varga. This was one of his very special qualities. Because of this, most of our God brothers would affectionately refer to him as a living tape recorder. Next section, expert in seva. Once Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj, then Sri Krishna Ballabha Brahmachari, that was his brahmachari name, Krishna Ballabha Brahmachari. Yeah. And also Kanai Brahmachari, myself, who I was then Narottam Brahmachari, and Sripad Madhavananda Brajvasi, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Once we traveled to Sarabhog, Assam for preaching. While we were there, it rained heavily, and we could not see the sun for 4 or 5 days. We were completely unable to go outside. During that time, Tirtha Maharaj cooked for all of us. Cooking was only one of his areas of expertise. He was an expert cook, and everyone was very fond of his cooking. This is one of the qualities of Vaishnavas. They are expert in everything related to the service of the Vaishnavas. Yes. Gurudev was also a very good cook, he told me. He used to also cook for his Guru Maharaj. And in our modern day, Sri Padmanabha Maharaj is the acharya of cooking for Gurudev. Every single little detail. The next section is titled His Light-Hearted Humor. Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj was also very rasik, which in Bengali it means humorous. Did you know that? Rasik, we have a different connotation, but in Bengali it means very humorous, very rasik. In Sarabhog, there was one young boy who visited us regularly, and he would always refer to Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj as Peta Mota Sadhu. Peta Mota Sadhu. Or fat-bellied saint. This boy. Yes. We could not understand. Oh wait, I lost the place. All right. Sripad Madhavananda Prabhu was chubbier than Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj, who was in fact not so chubby, and so we were quite surprised to hear the boy use this term for Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj and not Sripad Madhavananda Prabhu. We could not understand why this young boy was repeatedly calling him this name until one day I saw Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj alone with the boy, with his boy. Maharaj Ji was breathing in deeply to expand his belly, which he would then show to the boy. We then understood why the boy was calling Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj Peta Mota Sadhu. Although Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj was usually very grave and busily engaged in attentively hearing Harikatha and serving the Vaishnavas, he also had a sense of humor. Shri Shri Guru Gauranga, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ji Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 2275 states, Krishna Bhakti Krishnera Guna Sakali Sanchare. It means all the qualities of Krishna arise in his devotee. In this way, we can understand that although the Vaishnavas are generally very grave, they also engage in humor, because all the qualities of Krishna, who is the source of all transcendental mellows, including humor, they are also present in his pure devotees. So we have been so fortunate and blessed to see this quality in all of our great acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Gurudev, all of Trivikram Maharaj, all of them, Gaur Govinda Maharaj. They're always jolly, but also can become very grave. Next section is called His Humility and Surrender. Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj, as well as a number of other devotees, including myself, never desired to speak Harikatha in front of our Guru Varga, but were instead always eager to hear from them. There were other brahmacharis, however, who were very eager to speak Harikatha. They would approach Guru Maharaj and other Guru Varga to allow them to speak. I observed in my Guru Varga, particularly in our Guru Maharaj and in Srimad Bhakti Vichar Jajavar Goswami Maharaj, a special quality. I observed a special quality in them. What is that? If anyone approached them and requested them for permission to speak Harikatha, they would never grant them permission. On the other hand, they would force those who were reluctant to speak publicly to speak Harikatha. Pujapad, what? Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj was quite keen on hearing Harikatha, but was very reluctant to speak it. Imagine that, Tirtha Maharaj, such an incredible lecturer, and yet he is very reluctant. One day, Srila Jajavar Goswami Maharaj announced, "Today, our Sriman Krishna Ballabha Brahmachari will speak Harikatha." Without protesting, Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj spoke Harikatha on the order of his Guru Varga. I witnessed many examples of how he always remained under the anugatya of his Guru Vargas. His surrender at the lotus feet of Guru Varga is unparalleled. Next section, always seeking the advice of Vaishnavas. Another quality of Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj is that whenever he possessed doubt or question, he would always approach his Guru Varga and he would request the answer from them. A senior devotee of the Mutt once mentioned, "Although I have been staying in the Mutt for a long time, and though I have performed parikrama and many other spiritual activities, nothing has happened. Both my mind and life have not changed." So hearing this, Sri Krishna Ballabha Brahmachari and a number of other devotees became a bit disheartened. And they questioned, what is the use of staying in the Mutt if such a senior Vaishnava feels he did not receive any benefit as a result of his Mattvas? To remedy their puzzlement, Sri Krishna Ballabha Brahmachari approached Sripad Krishna Keshava Prabhu, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada who used to stay with our Guru Maharaj in Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math. And he inquired, "Prabhu, a senior Vaishnava has commented that he feels he has not derived any benefit from his time residing in the Math. Some of the devotees are bothered to have heard this. Because they are disturbed, I am sincerely asking you for clarification. How can we reconcile such a statement?" Seeing his sincerity, Sripad Krishna Keshava Prabhu mentioned, "It is natural for humility to arise in a person in proportion to the amount he has associated with senior Vaishnavas and advanced in bhakti." What did he say?
It's natural.
Humility is in proportion to the association he's had with senior Vaishnavas.
Yes. And to the proportion that he has advanced in bhakti. It is natural. And thus, it is out of humility that a spiritually advanced devotee will express his lack of progress in bhakti. In this way, we can reconcile such statements of senior Vaishnavas. Upon hearing Sripad Krishna Keshava Prabhu's answer, Sri Krishna Ballabha Brahmachari understood everything very clearly. There's another place in Srila Bharati Maharaj's, I think it's Srila Bharati Maharaj's book about our Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Maharaj. because he would say that sometimes. Yes. And the same remedy was there. The next section, very short, is called Kirtaniya Sadahari. As time passed, Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj remained always immersed in speaking Harikatha. Wherever he would go, it was impossible for him to stay without speaking Harikatha. Now he tells our affectionate relationship. Sometimes Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj would call me or meet with me to ask my advice on various matters. If someone else was present at that time, he would say, "Please excuse us, but we want to speak to each other privately." In this way, we used to sit together and discuss many different things. The relationship between us is such that it is not easily understood by many people, but my heart says that our relationship has always been very sweet. From the very first day we met, we visited many different places together for preaching. We stayed together, served our Guru Maharaj together in many different ways. We have, and always have, had a deeply affectionate relationship, but because many persons observe only external appearances and they neglect to consider the true heartfelt sentiments between us, they are unable to perceive this deep affection. Instead, they come to various mistaken conclusions about our relationship. Although I wish to continue glorifying my dear godbrother, Pujapad Tirtha Maharaj, my health does not allow me to sit or speak for too long. So today, on the auspicious day of his divine appearance in this world, I pray at his lotus feet to forgive me for any offenses I may have committed against him, either knowingly or unknowingly. So that's the end of his short glorification. So now I'm going to the book of Srila Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Maharaj, Associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there's a section here about him. And I don't know who wrote it, but I have a feeling it may have been written by our Nishringa Maharaj, Bhakti Gaurava Nishringa, because he had something to do with the editing of this book. And also there's a section about Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj in this book and Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj at the end of this book. And I can tell his writing style, so I think he may have written this. Anyway, it's very nice, and it's also short, so I'm going to read that. His Holiness Srila Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Maharaj was born in 1924 in Assam, India, on Ram Navami. So he was like 3 years younger than our Gurudev. Gurudev is 1921. And he was born on Ram Navami, the most auspicious appearance day of Lord Ramchandra. Having been brought up in a pious environment, he developed a strong inclination to search for truth, which led him to take up the study of philosophy at Calcutta University. He was very educated. After completing his MA in philosophy in 1947, he came in contact with his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Dayata Madhav Goswami Maharaj, and immediately became attracted by his divine and powerful personality. So almost the same year as Gurudev. He came. Srila Madhav Maharaj was one of the foremost followers of the illustrious preceptor of the pure devotional school of Bhakti Yoga, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur. From that time onward, Srila Tirtha Maharaj completely dedicated his life to the service of his Guru. Soon he became secretary of the devotional institution Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math, which has over 20 ashrams in India alone, As one of Madhav Maharaj's first sannyas disciples, he took the vow of renunciation in 1961. So I mentioned it yesterday, how I was at his 50th anniversary of his sannyas. So that was 2011. Yeah. After the disappearance of Srila Madhav Goswami Maharaj in 1979, Srila Tirtha Maharaj was appointed his successor as Acharya of the Mutt. During his lifetime, he received the blessings and the intimate association of many of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's prominent followers, such as Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Hriday Bhan Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, Kinchana Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, and many others. That raises my question. I heard that you made a book. You put together a book. I don't know if I've ever seen that little book. Do you have a copy of it with you?
I do. I'll bring it to you tomorrow.
Yeah. I'd like to see it because I met him. I have some special feelings towards him. Yes. Yes. So for the last 5 decades, Srila Bhakti Ballabhatirtha Goswami Maharaj has been engaged in preaching the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to counter the modern trend toward violence and cruelty and to bring about unity of hearts among all, irrespective of race, creed, or religion. Yeah, this is definitely Nrsimha Maharaj writing this. I think he may be writing this as for one of the books of Bhakti Ballabhatirtha Maharaj as like about the author section, because you can tell how he's phrasing things, you know, Bhakti Yoga. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj had requested Srila Tirtha Maharaj to accompany him to the USA just prior to his launching of the Krishna consciousness movement in the West in 1965. As he was engaged in the service of his Gurudev as secretary of Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math at that time, Srila Tirtha Maharaj humbly declined. Since 1997, however, at the request of Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, he has been traveling the globe several months a year, enlivening all who come in contact with his humble, sweet personality, extraordinary kirtan, and message of divine love. To date, his preaching travels outside India have taken him around the world, including the UK, Holland, France, Spain, Italy, Austria, Germany, Slovenia, Russia, the Ukraine, Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Hawaii, and throughout the continental US. Everyone is attracted by his eloquent, insightful, and most of all, purely devotional discourses. During his US tour in 1997, His Holiness Srila Tirtha Maharaj addressed the United Nations World Peace Prayer Society. That's the name of the United Nations thing. And also, he addressed the World Conference on Religion and Peace in New York City, offering them a succinct outline for world peace based upon the spiritual tenets of the ancient Vedas. His preaching programs over the past years have also included many interesting dialogues with prominent Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, Hindu, and Baha'i theologians in such diverse settings as universities, interfaith groups, churches, Hindu temples, and a wide variety of metaphysical and private educational centers. All are invariably won over by his gentle and affectionate nature, combined with his resolute faith in Guru, Vaishnava, and Bhagavan. He has also spoken on the sublime teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on many radio and television programs, including a thought-provoking interview on BBC Radio in the year 2000, which was broadcast worldwide. In addition to his role as Acharya of Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math, Srila Bhakti Balabhatirtha Maharaj serves as the Acharya of Gokul, G-O-K-U-L, Global Organization of Krishna Chaitanya's Universal Love. Gokul, which he founded in 1997. He has also served as Vice President of the World Vaishnava Association, WVA, working 18 hours a day. He is incessantly engaged in the service of humanity as a teacher of Vedic wisdom and the philosophy of Bhakti Yoga. He is presently engaged in writing articles and books in his native languages, as well as in English. To date, his English publications include the books Shuddha Bhakti, Sages of Ancient India, A Taste of Transcendence, and Sri Chaitanya, His Life and Associates. So that's the end of this little section. So Srila Bhakti Balabhatirtha Maharaj, I actually met him, I think the first time in Vrindavan, perhaps, in Vrindavan. And then I also met him in Singapore. It was that time period, because Gurudev also started traveling in 96, and he also went to these same places, you know. And in Singapore, I'm not sure whether it was in Singapore I met him first or whether in San Francisco. It could be San Francisco that I met him first. At the Ram Das's press facility, that building. And in that press building, he has a very nice little temple. At least at that time he did. So I met Tirtha Maharaj, so I think that was the second time meeting him. I hadn't yet heard from him. So when he arrived out, because we were told, actually I was there with Srila Das. We drove together, and then we were waiting for his arrival downstairs on the street level. And Srila Tirtha Maharaj came in the car, and he had his small entourage. He always had a kirtaniya with him. He always had one devotee, expert mridanga player and singer. Yeah, at least that one devotee. And of course his secretary, forget his secretary's name. So, yeah, so when Tirtha Maharaj came out of the car, and he had his danda flanked by the other devotees, and he was walking towards us and paid our obeisances, and then accompanied him up the stairs. But when I saw him, he looked so spiritually powerful, carrying his danda. Very grave mood, you know. So there, he gave a lecture related with Jagannath Rath Yatra, because it was Rath Yatra time. In fact, I think it was the Rath Yatra day in Puri that he gave this lecture. Probably one of the first times that he wasn't in Jagannath Puri for the Rath Yatra festival. And during that lecture, you know, he was glorifying the whole Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Rath Yatra. Then at the end of the lecture, he led a Jagannath Kirtan. And that's the first time I was in Kirtan with him. And it was mind-blowing. And, you know, he has a certain style to do refrains, you know. Jagannatha Deva Jai Dao, and the Jai Dao call kept on going on and on and on for like 15 minutes. So Jai Dao. And the tempo of the kirtan, that was one of the things about his kirtan. I learned some techniques from him as far as like what I tried to do during kirtan. But I learned these techniques from him, how he would raise the tempo of the kirtan gradually. And also melodically by the notes. He would gradually go up in the notes. And he'd go to the top, and then again he'd drop down and begin at the low point, and again build it up like that, right? And so that kirtan was so memorable. then I also met him in Russia. The very first day that I went to Russia was the same day that he also went to Russia. It was in 1999. I was sent to go there to introduce Srila Gurudev, you know. So then I found out that Srila Tirtha Maharaj was giving programs in this rented hall in Moscow every evening, you know. And the thing is that there were also many disciples there of Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, because a lot of the Russian devotees, they started getting initiation from Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. And of course, Srila Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Maharaj was such close relationship, and Srila Puri Maharaj lived for many, many years. You know, so those two mutts, Gopinath Gaudiya Mutt and Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Mutt, they were very, very intimate relationships. And then a few years after, Bhakti Vibhudd Bodhayan Maharaj, he came on behalf, and then also I went to his programs in Moscow. But anyway, on that evening, Srila Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Maharaj was glorifying Prahlad Charitra and the whole story of Lord Nrsingadev. Perhaps it was near that time of Nrsinga Chaturdasi. And such powerful lecture. And then Kirtan after up on the stage. He had us sitting on the stage with him also when we came. And after that, he went to St. Petersburg. But I stayed in Moscow for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, and began to introduce Srila Gurudev in Russia for the first time. And many, many devotees were coming. So then we went over to Petersburg, and on the day that we arrived in St. Petersburg, he was going to do Nagar Sankirtan on the streets, the downtown street, the biggest, most populated street in St. Petersburg, right? And St. Petersburg is like the capital of the culture.
Culture.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, he always, I guess, throughout his whole life, whenever he would do kirtan on the streets, right, he would always go barefoot. So we did that. It was in the summer, you know, this was in like June or something, May, June. And, there was about 50 devotees. And so we all left our shoes in a park right nearby where we started. And one devotee had to stay there and watch all the shoes, right? So then we started doing kirtan with Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Maharaj down this street and back. He led the entire kirtan. It was practically 1 hour. And it was such an experience, you know. So then also when I met him in Singapore, by that time I'd already had some association with him. And he was just in a little devotee's apartment. That devotee was actually an initiated disciple of Gaur Govinda Maharaj, who also came to Srila Gurudev. And he gave lecture there. And there was maybe about 30 devotees that had come. And then he did the Tulsi Parikrama and Kirtan around Tulsi Devi, dancing and singing. So then I met him again in London. And I stayed 3 days with him. So that's the most intensive association I had with him. Our Gurudev had been in England, and I was still in England after Gurudev's visit. And then I found out Srila Tirtha Maharaj is down in London. I went straight there. And it was so sweet. And he lectured about 3 times in the house, in the morning, in the midday, in the evening. But then in between, he also was going to different engagements that they had set up. We even went with him to the original Gaudiya Mutt temple that was founded after Srila Bhakti Hriday Ban Maharaj went and the preachers went in the 1930s. And some lady, I guess, had a very big house. And so that's been a Gaudiya Mutt there ever since. And we went there and he gave lecture. And then also he went to a Hindu temple in the evening on that same day, some Hindu temple in London area. And I remember that They were only going to give him 15 minutes to speak at the end of some pujas or whatever, right? 15 minutes. So when Tirtha Maharaj began to speak, he did his Mangalacharan, and then he said, what I can say, how I can, in 15 minutes. He wasn't happy about that, you know. But they're Hindus, Hindu temple, you know. He's just one of the swamis that comes and visits. You can have a 15-minute slot, right? What he told in that 15 minutes blew my mind. His English was so good, so educated. He quoted Gita Shloka after Gita Shloka. He destroyed all of the misconceptions of Hinduism in 15, 20 minutes, whatever it was, you know. And after that, I was talking with Ashram Maharaj on the phone, who was up in Birmingham at the time. And he wanted to hear, like, how is it to be with him? I said, let me tell you something. I think on the planet, in the English language, I think that Bhakti Ballabha Tirtha Maharaj is probably the greatest preacher on the planet at this time. Of course, Gurudev was there, but Gurudev always admitted that his English was, you know, crippled, he used to say. But, oh my God, Tirtha Maharaj was really erudite. So, anyway, that's the little bit of association. And I told yesterday how I met him just before he came out for his 50th anniversary, like that. So I have a very, very special affection. And he's given so much to us by giving especially this book. I carry this book all the time. I read from this book, all the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What a contribution he's given. So on this day, well, yesterday was, but belated, you know, I'm offering my Dandavat Pranams, praying for a drop of Srila Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Goswami Maharaj's causeless mercy, and praying that one day we can all have such strong and staunch, pure bhakti as he has given in his pastimes in this world. Jai Srila Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Dayata Madhav Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Rupa